CIET NCERT presents AudioBook Curiosity, Textbook of Science for Grade 8.
Page number 1. On top of this page, there is a picture. Right hand, there is a kite soaring in the blue sky. Left hand, there is bacteria. In the center, there is a plant with green leaves. There is a yellow flower in the center of this plant. One of the leaf is magnified under a hand lens. On this leaf, there is a caterpillar. There are roots spread across the soil. One of the root is ending in a petri dish. Another root is ending in a spring balance. There is a room temperature thermometer there. The last root is ending in a lens which is reflecting light. Chapter 1. Exploring the investigative world of science. On right side, there is a QR code which gives us all additional information about this chapter. Probe and ponder. Dear young scientists, welcome back. On the first page of each chapter, you will find a set of questions. These are not meant for any exam. They are unique invitations to spark your curiosity to explore the world of science. Why is one side of Puri thinner than the other? Are there more grains of sands on all the beaches and deserts of the world, or more stars in our galaxy? Right from grade 6, we have observed the incredible diversity of plants and animals around us. From the different shapes of leaves to many kinds of insects, why nature has created such a vast variety? Why has nature created such a vast variety? Is there such a question that makes you curious about the world? Write it here. At the bottom of the page, on right hand side, there is a picture. The picture has two scientists, a male scientist and a female scientist, and in between there are children who are staring up in awe. Page number 2. Our journey with curiosity into the world of science continues in grade 8. We hope you bring along a spirit of adventure and exploration that has guided us so far. In grade 6, we discovered how science begins with wonder, with simple why, and how questions about the world around us. In grade 7, we learnt that science is always evolving, that each answer opens new questions, and how our ideas can slowly change as we explore deeper. Now in grade 8, we take the next step, entering the investigative world of science, where wonder and evolution come together to form the heart of how science works. We don't want you to just learn new facts. We want you to learn how to find new facts. Investigation in science means more than just looking at something and asking only simple questions. Now you can ask more focused questions and design ways to perhaps do simple experiments to answer those questions and then use your observations to improve your understanding. Step by step, we will learn how to use questions as starting points to try to observe carefully, experiment thoughtfully, and explain clearly what we see. In doing so, each of you won't just be learners but also investigators, young scientists, exploring real-life puzzles. These may range from everyday life, like why does dough rise, to the bigger mysteries of Earth and beyond, like is the world getting warmer? As you turn each page of this book, we hope you notice the interesting design of our page numbers once again. On the left hand pages, at the bottom, you will find the image of a root, symbolizing the deep, solid foundation of knowledge that keeps us connected to our environment, traditions, and our cultural and natural heritage. On the right hand pages, in the top corner, you will find a kite soaring in the sky, reminding us that curiosity must take flight if we are to explore the unknown. Together, these two symbols, the root and the kite, invite you to stay grounded in real observations while allowing your ideas to soar towards new horizons. Remember, investigation in science works best only when we balance the solid ground of careful observation with the freedom of creative thinking. You will also notice some patterns at the lines at the bottom of the page. There are some hidden scientific thoughts in these as well. But don't worry, they are mainly to make the page a little less boring. Let us now take a brief look at the various stops on our journey this year and see where our curiosity, supported by strong roots and lifted by soaring ideas, might take us. Page 3. This year, our investigative adventure will take us on the journey from tiny microbe we can't see to planet-wide challenges we cannot ignore. We will start by examining something as small as a single drop of water and uncover a hidden world of tiny organisms, unseen but deeply linked to us. Some of these are invisible helpers that help us digest our food or produce medicines, while others can be harmful, causing infections. On right hand, we have an image where a child is being administered a vaccine by a doctor. The child is around 12 or 13 years old and he is wearing a mask, as well as the doctor is also wearing the mask. But what does our body need to stay healthy? How do we fight these infections? We will find out how nutritious food, exercise, medicines, and vaccines help us stay healthy and fight infections. But that is just the beginning. In today's world, science does play a major role in improving our lives. There is another image of a room heater which is switched on. Along with this, an iron which is used to press the clothes. For example, we use electric current in many ways to help make our lives easier. We depend on the heating effect of electric current to keep us warm, while the magnetic effect helps motors run and machines function. These phenomena depend on fundamental forces. So after watching electricity do work, we move on to study these forces themselves, starting with those that make objects speed up, slow down, or change direction. Understanding forces helps explain why a ball thrown up in the air falls back to the ground, or why a car stops when the brakes are applied. There is an image of a girl who is catching a ball which was thrown up in the air. This also leads to the idea of pressure, how the force is distributed over an object. The same concept of force and pressure also decide how air moves. A small difference in pressure can result in a gentle breeze, while a stronger pressure difference can lead to strong winds and sometimes
even cyclone.
At the end of this page, there is a picture. In the picture, there is thunder happening in the sky and the breeze is flowing from the sea. There are two children who are running. There is a mother, and we can imagine that there is a lot of breeze which is even swaying the trees over here. Page 4. So these forces are connected to powerful weather events like storms and cyclones that affect our daily lives, agriculture, and even our safety. To truly understand how air can exert pressure or why water boils at a certain temperature, we need to zoom into these materials and see what kind of particles they are made up of and how they move around. Now on the left side, there is an image. The first image
depicts
solid substance, and then there are the particles which do not have any interparticulate space between them. The second here is a beaker. In this beaker we have a liquid. Here the particles, they are scattered, but still they are in close contact with each other. The third image here is a balloon, yellow colored balloon, which is blown up, and in this the particles are zoomed out and they are far apart. Everything around us is made of tiny particles. In materials that are solid, these particles cannot move much, while in gases they can move around freely. Classifying things around us is an important feature of science. We can also classify materials around us into elements, that is pure substances, compounds, that is two or more elements bonded together, and mixtures, that is combinations that can be separated physically. Once we know how particles combine or mix, we can then understand solutions. For example, how sugar dissolves in tea to make it sweet. From the world of particles and mixtures, we now move into the world of light. We will study how light rays reflect off flat and curved mirrors and bends when passing through lenses and helps us understand the working of many objects around us. The bending of light explains what happens when we see an image in a shiny metal spoon, or how supportive glasses help many of us see clearly. On the left side, there is an image first of a liquid in a jar, and here there are two different kind of particles which are zoomed out. The image under this is also reflecting light. Here there is a mirror. The mirror is reflecting the light which is being thrown on it with the help of a torch. On right hand side, there is again an image. It is of a bowl. The bowl has various kind of lentils like green gram or the black chana. It is not just a polished mirror that reflects light. Rough surfaces reflect light as well, and so does the moon. Depending on the relative positions of the earth, moon and sun, a slightly different part of moon is illuminated each night, giving rise to the beautiful phases of moon that we see in the sky. Now there is an image which is giving us the periodic change of the phases of moon. Watching the periodic cycles of the moon's phases allowed humans to come up with first calendars. By combining careful observation of sunrises, sunsets, and lunar cycles, various calendars came into being. Isn't it fascinating that the calendars which determine our routines on the earth are linked to the motions of objects far beyond our planet? Page 5.
but it is
Not just the calendars or the movements of sun and moon that are linked. Right here on earth, there are marvelous and complex patterns of relationships between living organisms and their environments. Every living being, from the tiniest insect to the largest whale, from blades of grasses to tall trees, depends on and responds to the air, water, sunlight, and other organisms around them, forming the ecosystem that support life on our planet. On right side, there is a Chaitra calendar, March 22 to April 20, 2025. In the final chapter of this book, we can put it all together and try to understand what makes Earth just right for life and to recognize the urgent challenges that our planet now faces. Most importantly, the Earth lies at perfect distance from the Sun, where water remains liquid and it has an atmosphere that provides the oxygen we breathe while shielding us from harmful ultraviolet rays. But human activities on the planet can cause small changes in the temperature of the Earth, disrupting climate patterns with dangerous consequences. There are two images here. The first image is of a pond. In the pond, there is a duck swimming, there are lotus plants, and there are a number of other water plants. Along with this, there is a turtle which is on the side of the image of the pond, and the turtle has laid eggs. In the pond, there are fishes, small as well as big, and at the bottom of the pond, there are rooted water plants also. On the right side, there is an image. This image is a forest imagery. There is a tree right in the center. Under this, a deer is eating grass. On the right, there is another big tree, and there is a magnified image of a kite sitting on a trunk. On right side again, there is a fox, and at the base of this tree, there is a squirrel which is trying to climb the tree. In the center, there is a tree which has been cut. There is only a stump of the tree left. On this stump, there are number of lichens as well as the fungi. A rat is trying to climb this tree stump. On the left, there is a rabbit which is near to the plants. In the side, there is sun which is shining bright, and there are plants as well as birds flying around. At the heart of both the problem and any possible solution is us. We are the ones influencing Earth's climate, but we are also the ones who can and must use science to understand these changes and guide our actions. The same scientific principles that we have guided our journey through the middle stages, observing, measuring, experimenting, will be the key in helping us protect the delicate balance on which life depends. The challenges ahead won't always be easy. We hope some of you will try to solve these difficult problems with curiosity as your guide. Page 6. To help you think like a scientist, let us go back to a question we asked on the first page. Why is one side of a puri thinner than the other? Here there is an image of a puri frying. There is a big utensil in which it is full of oil, and there is a sieve through which we are trying to sieve out the puri. Firstly, remember that science is everywhere. You don't need a fancy laboratory to do simple experiments. Even your kitchen at home is a wonderful place to observe and ask questions. All you need is to start with curiosity, careful observation, and asking what happens if. Have you noticed how a puri or a bhatura puffs up when placed in hot oil? Or how a fulka swells when you directly put on the flame? Why does it puff up like a balloon? And why is one side thinner than the other? These are questions a scientist might ask, and you can too. Let us see how we can investigate this simple everyday phenomenon like a scientist would. First, we will try to ask a scientific question. What are the different things that may change the way a puri puffs up when fried? To answer this, we may want to do some simple experiments. For that, we try and find out two main things and what all we can change or control when we do the experiment, and what all we can observe to find if these changes made any difference. In this case, we can perhaps think of changing the thickness and size of the rolled dough. We could also try to use different types of flour, atta, maida, etc. While frying the puri, we can also change the temperature of the hot oil or try and drop the rolled dough into the oil in different ways. Maybe drop it vertically, or slide it at an angle, or slide it slowly. Notice that these are the things that we can control. However, to make sense of the changes, we also need to think of what we can observe or measure. Some of these may have just yes or no answers. In some cases, there might be a number we can measure. Maybe we can start by checking whether the puri puffs up, yes or no, or we can measure the time it takes to puff up, that is, record the seconds. We can check whether a very thick layer of dough still gives a thin side to the puri. We can check whether a very thick layer of the dough still gives a thin side to the puri. Further, while doing such experiments, it is better to change only one thing at a time while keeping the other conditions same. For example, if we wanted to find the effect of boiling hot and not very hot oil, we would use circles of dough of the same thickness and drop them in the same way. Page number 7. It is also a good idea to keep notes of everything that you find and sense when doing an experiment. Did the oil splatter, smell or smoke? And after doing one round of experiments, you may think of more questions. Do puris puff better when made fresh or from stored dough? What happens if I prick a hole in the puri before frying? This is exactly how all scientific experiments, from simple to the most complicated, are done. This is the idea of systematic investigation. And just so you know, even this simple everyday observation of a puri swelling is not really completely understood by scientists today. So whether it is the swelling of a puri or the shrinking bright part of moon after Purnima, let your careful observations guide you along your explorations into the investigate world of science. Happy investigating. Chapter 1 ends here.
Curiosity. You were just listening to this audiobook, Textbook of Science for Grade 8. Narration, Harpreet Kaur. Sound recordist, Mohammad Faizan Khan. Assistance in production, Amarjeet Sarkar. Directed and produced by Vimlesh Chaudhary. This audiobook is brought to you by CIET NCERT, New Delhi, India.